Hi, this is Lauren Cheek from Lornicopia. It's June 12th, 2020. We are right in the middle of an outbreak, and I've been gardening. So I'm going to show you my garden at this time of year because I showed you one a few minutes ago, or a few days ago, weeks ago, of my garden early mid-spring, and this is early summer. So I'm going to turn around and show you what's happening. All right, so here we've got salvia. The roses are taking a little bit of a rest. You'll see them blooming. And then over in here in this bed, I've got all the irises, and I have planted dahlias. So those are beginning to come up. But I'm also doing some wildflower beds and cutflower beds. So right here, we've got daylilies that are orange. And then I've also planted Stella d'Oro daylilies on the border that are beginning to bloom. And as you look up here, this is where my tree was, and I have a pokeweed growing that I let grow here. They grow everywhere. I have to constantly pluck them. But it has these beautiful stems that turn purple, and then these will develop purple berries that are really, really dark purple. It's a very pretty plant, so I decided to let that grow in here with my wildflower garden. And then over here I've got cosmos and zinnias. These are purple prince zinnias, and then another set of taller cosmos in the back. This cosmos is like 6'7" or something right there. It's a huge cosmo. So this is all my cut flower. Not the only one I have, but one of them. I hope you can see that. I'm going to pan back. I'll try not to rush past everything so you can get a look at it. And then here along the borders, I've got spiderwort. This is like a wild spiderwort that grows here. I always let it grow up and around with these little pretty blue flowers. They have like a yellow stamen on the inside. Come over here where you can see this one. Yeah, they're pretty. Anyway, we're going to come around the back side of the garden. And I've got squash planted in here among the poison ivy. Poison ivy's growing up everywhere. And then in here I've got tomatoes and then more cosmos. The tomatoes are doing pretty well. This is another kind of wildflower garden, but I have Asiatic lilies in here that have already bloomed. And I've got Liatris, and then I've put Zinnia and cosmos back in here as well. So that should eventually begin to grow out. And then little teepees for my tomatoes to tie them off. Got a little tomato going on there. And then down here, I've got the window boxes planted with, I'm going to come close so you can see them. These are impatiens because there's an overhang, so this is actually kind of fairly shady during the day. And Dusty Miller, and they're doing really well. And then I've got one blue hydrangea in the yard. It's the most common color of hydrangea, but my soil changes most of the hydrangeas purple or pink. So you can see the window boxes. And that runs all the way across the front. So this is the front garden. It's looking pretty good. Let me show you the edge over here. I planted a lot of gladiolas a couple of years ago. And they are doing really well over here. It's a rose I'm going to plant. I had one rose die. It got fungus on it. I'm not sure if it's completely dead, but it's certainly looking tattered. But look at these. Are these not gorgeous? The bees love them. You have to support them with a stake. It took me like 2 years of growing them to realize, oh, they're not just flopping over because I'm doing something wrong. They all flop over, and you have to stake them up. And then here on the front, I'm lining the shaded area over here with hydrangeas that are purple. And each of these hydrangeas will get to be like about 5.5 feet tall and 5.5 feet wide. So it's going to really fill out this area nicely. So that's the front bed. I'm going to stop in the middle here and let you take a good look at it. We'll do a 360. So we're at the gladiolas. And then nothing really going on. These big tall plants that you're seeing in the front beds, we dug them up from the yard where we got all the lilies and everything, and the irises. And I'm pretty sure this is purple coneflower. So I'll be excited if that comes up. And that's what it is. It's a sunflower or purple coneflower. And then I've got the dahlias and all that. So let's come back here and I'll show you what I've been doing. Y'all have seen the patio with the hippie swing. It's the swing I salvaged, and then I covered it with a shower curtain, and then I found some fabric at Goodwill, and almost all these pillows are from Goodwill, and I threw together the hippie swing. But under here I have a workstation. It's nice and shaded. I burn up in the sun. This is a wheelbarrow that I salvaged from my sister's house. I had to rechange the tire and the axle. That was way more than I ever wanted to learn about wheelbarrows. This particular one has a threaded axle because these attachments that attach the wheel are threaded. So I had to get someone from Ace Hardware to help me find a threaded piece of, bar that was the right size and all that. It was episodic, but I'm glad I have it. So over here I've got shade. My Dusty Miller that I planted in here just freaking died. It's like too shady for them. The impatiens are doing pretty well. And then this is semi-shady right here, so I've got impatiens in here. And then this is sun, so these are petunias and Dusty Miller. But this is one of the things I did this year. I graffitied my shed. I've always wanted to do it. Let me step back and let you take a look. It looks like a train car anyway, so I can never figure out exactly what to do with it. I'll probably change the look at some point in time and do something more subdued, like a Mediterranean scheme or something with an overhang. But I'm loving this right now. Looks good with the pots and the flowers. And then over here I have a shady spot where I could get literally nothing to grow. And finally this year I was like, let me put some impatiens in there and see if they'll do okay. And they're loving it here. So I put a little bamboo skirt around it. I'm going to come back over to this side real fast. Show you the objects. These roses smell wonderful. They're knockout roses. These were my blue hydrangeas that turned purple and pink. I'll show you a close-up of these. Look at the colors. All different shades of lilac and pinkish purple. And then this one over here is just plain pink. This is a dress form I found at Goodwill. I finally painted it this blue. This is kind of a cool little project I did when I painted the shed. I took this hoop that I had found at Goodwill and a melamine plate I found at Goodwill. So I spray painted the loop and then Gorilla Glued the plate to the back of it to make a little piece of art. I'm pretty proud of that. Now we're going to go around back over to the deck. So I found this coral spray paint. I was going to paint everything the same color as that, the blue, and just carry it all through the yard. And I was in the aisle and I saw this like freaking coral color. And I was like, I can paint everything on the deck this color. It'll really tie it together. And I'm so happy with the way it looks. I mean, just looks great. Looks great with the flowers. Looks great with the brown and the black that's out here. So those were two of the projects that, well, actually three, if you count the wheelbarrow, that I've been working on. I'm going to give you a quick, long view of the yard, and then I'm going to go right out to the center where everything's happening. So I'm trying to grow food. It's a little too shady in most parts of my yard to do it. I'm having some success with some things, but not very much. So this center garden right here is going to be my other wildflower cut garden. I'm also growing some vegetables in here because it gets sun this time of day, but it's shady the rest of the time of the day, and they get sun late evening. But I've planted zinnias and all kinds of wildflowers in here, and then I've planted dahlias to come up, and I've also planted some sunflowers in here staggered around. So it should be a mixed up kind of wild garden. This is supposed to be lettuce and cabbage. We'll see what happens. I sowed the garden earlier in March, and it was too cool for anything to germinate. So just now in June, things are beginning to germinate, which drives me insane because they're not all germinating. They're just somewhat germinating. Anyway, this is my other wildflower cut garden. It's zinnias. I did put delphinium in here. They never came up. We'll see what happens. But the zinnias, as you can see, are all germinating. So I'm going to have a cut garden right here. And then if you look back, the middle garden, everything has its phase and there's always something blooming to catch your eye. The roses are kind of like regenerating right now, so they're not the star of the yard. But the lilies and the gladiolas are beginning to come up. and they're the thing that draws your attraction of your eye. So if you looked earlier, this was all yellow irises with the roses coming out between it, and then the irises finished, and then the roses were dominant. They're still in there. They won't bloom quite as much as they did. But now I've got the lilies and things coming up, and this is St. John's wort. I took this from a cutting in the front. Isn't that beautiful flower? The bees love this. And that will get to be quite a large bush, so that's going to fill out the central area. But also, let me show you these gladiolas. You got red, purple, yellow, pink. I like the architecture of the leaves, too. It's very pretty. Anyway, and then out here, I am growing corn, and then I've got zinnia growing along the edge. I also put purple coneflower in amongst the corn. I'm doing a three-sister garden. Now, this corn is taking a long time to grow. I planted it in March, so it's now just getting knee-high in June. Like I said, it was too chilly. They weren't in like super direct sunlight at that time of the year. Now the sun has shifted, and it is over this the majority of the day. So I have put my beans, my squash in because it's time for that. I'm waiting to see if they germinate. And I might have a three-sister garden. But this is all an experiment. I have not grown food before. I'm good at growing other things. But food, not my specialty. I'm learning. My next-door neighbor and best friend is teaching me everything she knows. But she's got a sunnier little back plot where she's growing stuff. And look how this rose pollinated and cross-pollinated with the yellow one, which is right here, and kind of in dormancy right now, but getting ready to bloom again. But yeah, it's kind of like, they're usually this coral color, but you'll get some of these beautiful blush and kind of champagne-colored roses. And apparently, gladiolas can do the same thing, because all the gladiolas in the front that I showed you that have the little faces on them didn't look like that last year. They were all pink, but only one of them had a face on it. So it pollinated with the other ones. Beautiful. But that's it. That's my quick garden tour. Show you what's going on now. I'll show you another one when other things come out and grow.